Sometimes again I will take my small little piece of, this is actually linen, and I'll get into a small section that I can't make circular motions with, and I'll just rub. You can hear, and occasionally maybe you've heard on the video, when the pad has stuck just slightly to the surface. You'll feel it. You'll certainly hear it. You'd like to avoid it, but you're not going to be able to avoid it all the time. At that point, put on a little more olive oil. If you find the stick is really bad, you've had a really hard stick, and there's a sort of a damaged spot to the finish there, let it dry and you'll go back using some of the techniques that we talked about before. But it'll happen, don't freak out. You'll get used to it. And you'll get used to the feel when you put on too much oil and not enough oil, and when to put on more. I just heard a little stick there. That was more because I just stopped the pad from moving a little bit. I also want to mention, in case anybody was wondering, this is a temporary setup for me. So the bench is very small. The shop is very small. It's not ideal. It is what it is, to quote my wife. We are preparing to move, and so this is sort of a temporary setup for me. As to what's the best, obviously whatever you have is the best, but if I had my druthers, I'd certainly prefer a space that was 2 or even 3 times larger than this, in a bench that's bigger and that's set up differently than this one. But we're making it work. I've got another spot where I'm going to put a tiny bit of polish and just do it with a small pad. No matter what shape that you use, you're going to stretch the cover till it's firm. Doesn't have a bunch of folds that might damage the shellac, which is pretty soft. You know, it's soft at this point. I'm putting a pretty large amount of downward pressure on the rubber here. I mentioned in my article that I wrote years ago that in the 19th century, some clever guy had actually created a machine. The machine injected polish into the pad, and the pad mechanically rubbed. But they couldn't get it to work because the machine didn't have the eye, didn't have the feel, couldn't naturally adjust the pressure of the pad. You know? But they tried. They tried to modernize. but you can. This is a hand process, and I'm not sure that there's any way around that.